Hello, here's a little update on how the car has been going for the past few months. I think we'll start from the front and then kind of work our way back and ramble along with all the things that have been going on here. Previously, the front end hadn't really been built. I think I had a little bit of the headlight in right there, but as you can see, I've got quite a bit more done. I got side barrel in. The rear fenders are shaped in, this side of the front fender is shaped in, this headlight, all that. It's still pretty rough, but I've actually started going through and kind of backtracking on some of the parts I didn't like. So I guess starting over here, this wheel well was sitting a little too far out as compared to the other side. And so I had to, with the wireframe being tacked into everything, kind of had to go in and cut along here and reshape a lot of that, and didn't feel too great to have to go and cut the body apart again. So I haven't really spent the time to go and reshape this top panel, but it's not really a big deal when I go to do that. I just haven't yet. On the inside here, also haven't shaped the inside of that surround just because I know I can do it. I just haven't yet. Started putting a little bit over the hood. That's a Tacoma, I think a TRD Tacoma, like a 2015. It just took up a lot of space there, so I may as well throw it on and see how it looks. Moving along here, side barrels have been cut and put into place. I'm actually pretty happy with that. The other side you could see wasn't on, but I do have both sides cut out, and both doors are cut out. I also went along and tacked the Beetle roof over, on top of that. So that's actually how that's supposed to be. It'd probably bring it down a little bit in the front. The roof isn't in place yet. It's just kind of freewheeling over here. So the roof will move a little bit and the panel gaps will improve. But that's the basic shape. And built the exhaust with 3-inch stainless. And then there's a small muffler back there. You probably see it on the other side. And I need to figure out the venting situation because I've got a pretty big intake. And especially if I decide to keep this upper mount, all the air going into the car needs to go somewhere. And preferably not out the bottom. So might try and take it out the side through both sides. With that, I've been trying to get the hinges to work and dealing with all the fun stuff of having a sealing surface and so the water doesn't come in or you don't hear a whole bunch of wind noise, and that is complicated. So I haven't really welded any of this stuff in place yet. I've just started building all the parts, but I'll show you on the other side. There's a bulkhead to help hold the hinge in place. It's a 06 CRV hinge in there. And then the door is still just a skin. There needs to be, a skeleton or something so it's not wobbly. Started work, finished up these inner sills and started making the panels to keep the wheel well from being the interior. Added these panels on the inside there to that guy to help, widen the interior out as much as I can. Since the tire is sitting right about here, I can bring the interior out to, wherever I decide. With this panel, this is where the hood or the door latch is going to go, along with a sealing surface that needs to go wherever the door latch isn't. Still need to build all that, figure it out. See, it's nice and graceful. I got the rear fender shaped in pretty well. Started work on the roof, though. It's kind of can't really build the roof until the rear section of the roof until the Beetle section is actually fixed in place. So I need to go around and do that. I started work on the floor. The floor sits pretty high just because I got the fuel tank in there sitting down below, and everything sits above it. However, it is pretty good amount of space for a car this small. This rear fender turned out really nice, except for the side barrels. It's probably one of the nicest parts on the car, and because I didn't use scrap metal on it, I was able to do a much better job with the wheeling. The job is still trying to be kind of quick, or not waste another 5 years on this. So I did cut these panels and make some relief cuts and do that sort of thing, along with a whole bunch of wheeling to get the right shape in there. But I'm happy with how that's going. Over here, here's a better shot of the sill panel. I initially finished it. I hadn't done a good enough job, so I've cut out this extra panel, and it's much nicer looking. And I'm just gonna drill holes through all the surfaces, and then plug weld it basically over the existing stuff. And then I've also made this forward panel here I got some ideas about it, distributing load in an accident and this and that, but it's there. It makes more sense to have this come out, and instead of ending right there, it tapers off into the rest of the body. And also the cabin stops right here, so it's a little bit more protection for the cabin and should distribute load across there instead of making this piece of the frame fail. In the event that this structure is too strong, it's not going to just collapse that whole piece. It's going to have to collapse, the whole safety structure all the way across, which I think would be quite a bit harder. Probably just push the car. Here is the bulkhead from the other side that holds this is what holds the door hinges. And I started trying to box everything off and make a bit of a firewall in here, because you need a firewall. So it's right here. Got to drill the holes and then box this off, probably dimple die in there so it looks fancy, and just a sheet coming up from the dash bar straight up to the roof once it's welded in. Should be enough. The battery is going to go in between here, and then the structure that supports the battery will help solidify these two panels to each other. Normal Lotus 7 will have a bar going from right here straight across, which is probably critical considering how close it is to the engine bay for the twisting between the two sides. I think this box right here isn't really being used for anything. I built it really early before I knew how the design was going to go, because I needed it over there to put the pedals that high up. I think I'll use that for the heater. Maybe put a fan coming in right there and put the core on the inside of that so it can get the air in there. The intake is not good. It is, as you can see, it's just one 2-inch union all the way around with a 3-inch hole in the inside. But I think it'll work enough to flow air into the engine, and I don't really need to make peak power or anything like that for the first stage of this build. I can always come through and just take this out and make something nice with an intercooler or wherever I decide to put it, and get good power out of it, or not heat soak and all that. But for now, that'll get boost into the engine, and have some fun with it. So coming back around, the hood is now hinged, and I'll show you that. It is entirely a clamshell now, just because it was simpler with all the panel gaps and this and that to just make the whole hood open up. There will still be, for this bottom panel right here, will extend all the way out to the front wheel well. I'll probably make a panel that comes across to hold it onto the frame right there so it doesn't wiggle around. Here's how that's going. From the inside here, the door has to seal. This is a temporary piece against the door, but I need to make a girder all the way along there, and then probably the same shape girder all the way back, a few of them, kind of like a old airplane. And then the sealing surface will be right across there to whatever shape the girder is. And yeah, this is kind of a better shot of this forward beam for the sill panel, how far it extends out. It's basically as far as I could without having interference with the exhaust. And yeah, it's been going okay. Have these reinforcement beams coming from the cage down to the front suspension, though without any reinforcement side to side or to each other, they're not going to do anything unless you get into an accident and the slack is taken up. So as it stands with 2 bolts going through it, there's certainly some slack in there, and it's you know, it's not stiffening the frame unless the load gets taken up. But I built them, and I can probably do something with them if I feel it's necessary to bring a beam down to right here and then another beam back up to it, and then it is definitely part of the structure if I do that. But there's quite a few projects to do right now, so I'll skip out on that for now. The car did run briefly, but it does not right now because I burnt out the starter. The Megasquirt has been having issues registering my cam and crank signal, so the starter in the engine is pretty much dead. It runs like 100 RPM or something, not enough to get it fired up. So I got to pull the motor and put a new starter in it. Well, because the adapter plate with the starter bolts sandwiched between the adapter plate, it means you got to pull the transmission to get them off. And so you just got to pull the motor to do that, because there's, you know, that's just comes out as a system. So when I do that, I'll pull the motor, finish welding everything, put the fuel lines in, the hard lines, and from there, maybe even paint the frame, and then that part will be done forever, and I can put it back together and get it running, and then it'll pretty much be drivable then. I already have the seat mounts in here pretty much ready to go. I just need to weld them in, and ended up redoing the steering column support just because it was cleaner to tie it into a dash bar. I hadn't thought far enough ahead to just do it like this in the first place. I also got a new steering wheel that's a little bit bigger and bright red, so it fits in with the car. And yeah, I'll close the hood and do just a walk around to how it looks. To get an idea. The hood is definitely a bit heavy, and it doesn't align very well right now, but you can see it's definitely possible to get it to align pretty good in the future once I have everything solid and actually welded in. So I'll just start back here. All right. Definitely not losing my mind. Hopefully there'll be another update in another few months.